Welcome back. Today was just gathering wood, dirt, and crops for the interior of the AFK hole. Sit back and enjoy the glory that a quick Reddit scroll produces. I accidentally confessed to the wrong girl. 3 years later, she's my wife. This happened back in 2019, and even now I sometimes look at her and think, how the hell did we get here? So here's how it went down. I was hopelessly in love with this girl from my university. Let's call her Emily. We shared a few classes, exchanged laughs over group projects, and even had a flirty kind of friendship. I thought I had a shot. My friends hyped me up, saying, "Dude, she likes you back, just say it." So one evening, after overthinking it for weeks, I finally decided to confess. I wrote this long heartfelt message, not too cheesy, but just enough to let her know I was serious. My hands were literally shaking while typing it. I hit send. A few seconds later, I realized I sent it to the wrong Emily. Yep. Turns out I had two Emilys in my contacts, one from my psychology class, my crush, and another from a random campus event I barely remembered attending. Guess which one I sent it to? I panicked. Thought about unsending it, but she'd already seen it. She replied a minute later with something like, "Wow, I wasn't expecting that. But do you maybe want to grab coffee and laugh about this accidental confession?" I almost ghosted her. Not gonna lie. But I figured I already embarrassed myself. Might as well own it. So I went. We did laugh. A lot. She turned out to be the most sarcastic, weirdly insightful, and unexpectedly kind person I'd ever met. We started hanging out more as a joke at first. The accidental couple, we called ourselves. But feelings started growing. And this time, I wasn't confused or anxious about whether she liked me back. It was just effortless. Fast forward to 2022, I proposed to her. On purpose this time. We got married last year, and I still joke that I confessed to the wrong girl, but ended up with the right one. TLDR, accidentally confessed love to the wrong girl in college. She asked me out for coffee as a joke. Now she's my wife. Love is weird and kinda awesome. What just happened to me and my boyfriend? This just happened less than an hour ago, and my boyfriend and I are both incredibly confused and unsettled. We sleep in a small camper parked in the driveway of our home, which we share with my dad and his close friend. I recently cleaned out our camper, and all our clothes are kept in a separate room of ours inside. We have never stored our clothes in the camper, and these details will be important. My boyfriend and I put on our jackets and layered up to head out since it's cold out now. He was wearing a yellow shirt with a black button-up over top when we went to bed. After spending some downtime watching a show, we cuddled and I took his black button-up off, leaving him in his yellow shirt. Without going into detail, he later took his shirt off and tossed it to the floor by my bedside table. 45 to 60 minutes later, we needed to head inside for the bathroom. My boyfriend searched our camper high and low for his shirt, shaking out blankets, checking under pillows, in cabinets and on shelves, but it was nowhere to be found. He began checking the area around where he threw the shirt, and I watched as he picked up a shirt. It was grey. He had been wearing the shirt he was holding earlier in the day, but he had changed into his yellow shirt hours before and had left the grey one in the room where our clothes are, in plain sight. We both were flabbergasted. We both vividly remember him wearing his yellow shirt when heading to the camper. I saw him in his yellow shirt right next to me as we were watching our show. Thinking surely the yellow shirt must have gotten itself stuck somewhere in the camper, we headed inside to use the restroom and search for this goddamn shirt. My boyfriend opened the door to the room with all our things and immediately called me over. The yellow shirt he had been wearing just an hour before in our camper was sitting in the exact place where he had left his grey shirt earlier in the day. The two shirts seemed to have impossibly switched places, and we both can vouch that he wore the yellow shirt to bed. I've searched the internet for an explanation and have found nothing. How could these two objects have switched exact places without being seen or touched? My girlfriend and I experienced something very weird in our new apartment. So this happened last week and I'm still freaking out a bit. We just moved into this old apartment in downtown Chicago. Place has that classic vintage vibe, hardwood floors, big windows, high ceilings. Seemed perfect when we signed the lease. First few nights were fine. Normal moving in stuff. But then something started feeling off. It began with small things. Keys moving when we weren't looking. Weird cold spots in random corners. The kind of stuff you'd normally ignore. Then last Thursday happened. I was working late. Girlfriend was asleep. Suddenly, she sits straight up in bed and just stares at the corner of the room. Not moving. Just completely frozen. When I asked what was wrong, she whispered, "Someone's watching us." I checked. Nothing was there. But the temperature dropped like 10 degrees in seconds. Our cat, who's normally chill, was hissing at literally nothing. The weirdest part. Next morning, we found an old photograph hidden behind the radiator. Black and white. Looks like it's from the 1940s. Shows a family. But one face is scratched out. We don't know what to do. The landlord's being super weird about our questions. Anyone else experience something like this? Told my boyfriend he was the same size as my ex. My boyfriend and I have been together for about a month and a half, and last night we had sex for the first time. Afterwards, we were laying in bed and talking when he asked me if he was the biggest I had ever had. I asked him if he wanted me to be completely honest and asked if he was going to be upset about my answer, and he said no. I told him, I would say you and my ex are around the same size. It feels about the same. This deeply upset him. He was being cold and distant, couldn't even look at me, and said maybe 5 things to me within the 2 hours I was there before I left his place. I kept apologizing, telling him I didn't mean that sex felt the same, but he couldn't believe me and kept saying I was only telling him what I thought he wanted to hear. I left around 4:30 a.m. and when I got home I was telling him how sorry I was and that I genuinely didn't mean to upset him at all. He told me that nobody has ever said something so insane to him and he doesn't think he will be able to be turned on by me again. I woke up for work around 10 and once again apologized, told him I loved him, and told him to text me if he needed anything. He's texted me twice today and everything he's said has been avoidant and cold. I don't know what to do. I've told him so many times that he took what I said the wrong way, that I'm sorry, and that sex with him felt different than it did with my ex, but he doesn't believe me. He told me he is fearing for our relationship after this. Am I the asshole for saying this to my boyfriend? And what do I do to get him to forgive me? Edit. A lot of people are dogging on me for telling him I love him so early on. Sometimes you just know. We had known each other for a while before we made things official, so these feelings have been developing. My therapist admitted that she had the intent to manipulate me. So yes, this is true and happened few months ago. As boundaries were already slowly crossed, social media contact and her attention sucked me up, and her admiration and lack of true progress, I snapped and wanted to finally quit this therapy even if the attachment terribly hurt. On the last session, she gaslighted basically every fact and my worries about boundaries and her comments' behavior. Then she basically said that yeah, well maybe she had the intent to manipulate, but did not properly finish the sentence and I never heard an explanation. She tried to justify everything with my traumas and that she only wanted to strengthen me since how damaged my inner child is. She also said this is a rupture on which we should and could work on if I stayed, but again I did not get clear answers on anything. She shifted all responsibility back to me subtly, because I did not even recognize the shifting there, only days after thinking and reading about the topic and crying my eyes out. Then we hugged and she said she does not care about boundaries because I am such a special person, but I don't remember the rest of her sentence. I tried to recall but I can't remember. Our hug was too intense, I guess. Few weeks before this we also bumped in each other in a park, and she said that she saw a movie with a beautiful girl in it like me, and she was just smiling. Well, these are just a few specific details as this goes back years with her. I could write a lot, but I'm afraid of the story being out in public in any way. I just can't process what happened. I mean, she was my kinda last hope for trust and connection. I felt I finally found what I missed for all those years. But I didn't. And I don't know what now. Yeah, I even found out after that she has no certificate in the therapeutic modality of what she said about herself. I am still in disbelief and I must have messed up this whole thing at one point because I can't believe the whole thing is true in itself. I even doubt my own thoughts constantly and I feel like I will go crazy. I mean, month passed, and I am still rehearsing conversations in my head or dreaming about her, and I feel like this is constantly with me unanswered. She knew my history about attachments to mother figures. I basically wanted to quit this schema in my life. No one ever gave me answers in my life, They just got cold and left me in the dark. I miss her hug, but I also feel disgust sometimes, then anger. Nothing overtly sexual happened, so I feel like I should just move on, but everyone was shocked who I told the story to actually. I already have complex trauma and I fear this incident did not help my situation. And yeah, she is a woman too, but I am 25, she is over 40 and even has a husband. Please don't say to report it. It's not that easy in my country, and I have basically no proof. I would dig my grave with putting myself in a legal nightmare with a doctor. But I don't know how to move on. Thank you for reading. And sorry for my English. I saw a girl sitting on my roommate's bed at 3:30 a.m., and it wasn't any of us. A few nights ago, something really strange happened. I woke up around 3:30 a.m., and I was sleeping facing my fourth roommate's bed. I sleep on the third one. When I opened my eyes, I saw a girl sitting on the edge of my roommate's bed. Her hair was open, and she was playing with it, almost like she was trying to tie it up. At first, I thought I was just half dreaming, so I rubbed my eyes and blinked a few times. But the figure was still there. I figured it might be morning already and maybe my second roommate had woken up early and was sitting there, trying to wake the fourth one up for breakfast or something. So I turned around, facing the other side of the room, towards my second roommate's bed, and there she was, sound asleep. That's when it hit me that it was still dark. I checked my phone, 3:35 a.m. I slowly turned back again to look, and the girl was still there. But this time, she stood up and started walking towards the main gate of the room. I didn't dare move. I just shut my eyes and stayed frozen until I somehow fell back asleep. The next morning, I asked all my roommates if any of them were awake around that time. They all said no. Later that day, I met my old roommate. She used to stay in this same room before me. And when I told her what I saw, she went pale. She said she had seen the same thing, a girl sitting on the edge of the bed with her hair open, back when she lived there. I don't know what to make of it, but I swear what I saw was real. Has anyone else ever experienced something like this in a hostel or dorm? AO for dumping my 3 years girlfriend over not a date. So, I have been with my girlfriend for about 3 years, in what was a pretty much classic exclusive relationship. We were living in a big city, and recently, very recently, that's going to have its importance, moved to her province of origin. When moving, she picked up a new job, real estate agent. I work from home and am there pretty much all day. She also gets to work from home, unless she has property visits. To cut to the chase now that the setting is set, a couple days ago, she tells me she's got a visit, and leaves the house, at like 3:45 p.m. I finish my day of work, at about 5, leave for the gym, train for about 2 hours and come back, around 7:30 p.m. Still no girlfriend. I don't think much of it. I shower, start prepping my food, and finally a bit before 8 p.m, she shows up. I'm a bit curious, so I ask where she was, still, at this time without thinking much of it. The clients were a couple and didn't like the first house, so they visited another one, and then she got home. See, at this point, still not really suspecting a big thing is happening, I start to find things weird. I visited houses. I know how long it takes, and 3 visits certainly do not take 4 hours. So I keep poking, out of curiosity, and after some time and some more poking, at some point the couple, became he. At this point, my spider sense goes off. I keep poking at her story, and the more I poke, the more she contradicts herself. I know something's up. The discussion lasts and lasts. She obviously is out of options, but still refuses to do the big reveal. I get tired and just say that I'll go to bed, that we'll pick up the next morning. Except no, I get to bed and I can't stop thinking. I go back down and corner her, metaphorically of course. I get up in verbal intensity and basically leave her no choice. She refuses. The intensity goes up another notch. And at the very last second, when literally it was give me something or get out, she timidly admits, we went on a dinner. Which she now maintains tooth and nail wasn't a date. She's been an agent 2 weeks. I broke up the relationship right then and there. Guy stopped dead in his tracks. What happened? I was walking with my fiancé in NYC at night in a park along the East River in Manhattan. There was a couple, around 45 to 50 years old, maybe 50 feet in front of us. Not far away at all. It was fairly late, like 11:30, and not a ton of people around. Probably 10 people in sight, and mostly couples. Suddenly, the guy in front of us stopped as if he hit a sliding glass door he didn't see. Like a brick wall, he was stunned and he fell straight backwards onto his back. And when I say stunned, it was almost as if he stood up straighter for a few seconds frozen, before he fell backwards. This was on the boardwalk that was 30 feet wide, no random lamppost or something like that in the way. We were all walking in the same direction, so as this was happening we were catching up and got to about 20 feet away. We were confused and didn't really know what to say, but we mustered up things like, "Are you okay? What happened?" etc. The female tried to kinda shoo us away, saying he's fine. Sometimes this happens. Don't worry about us, he's fine. You can go. We kinda just looked at each other like, did we both just see the same thing happen? Yes, we were smoking a J, but we both saw the same exact thing. To this day, it's the weirdest thing I've seen with my own eyes. My new boss has a reputation for meeting one-on-one with female employees. Now he wants to meet with me. I was wrapping up work at my new job, 2 months in. I felt like I was finally starting to get the hang of things, when I heard footsteps approaching my cubicle. Stephanie, just who I wanted to see. I looked up nervously. "Hello, Mr. Henson. I've been looking over your work, and I must say, I'm impressed. I'd like to discuss your future here at the company. Why don't you come by my office this evening after work?" I'd heard rumors about women who'd gone to his office after work hours. Nothing concrete, but hushed whispers in the hallway about the things that tended to happen there. The company was good at keeping things quiet. It helped when the women who could confirm didn't work here anymore. I tried to think of a reason to avoid going. "I'm flattered, Mr. Henson, truly," I replied. "But I have to get home to take care of my mother. She can't be alone in the evening. Can we meet tomorrow during work hours?" Nonsense. There's no time like the present. See you in an hour. My office. That is, if your future here is important to you. With that, he walked away. I couldn't afford not to go. It was too important. I just had to be prepared and keep my eyes open. 59 minutes later, I knocked on his office door and then entered. He looked a bit surprised. "I hope I'm not intruding. Your assistant told me to come on in." Did she? My regular assistant is out sick. She would have known better. Oh well, no harm done. I'm glad you decided to join me. Here, let me get you a cup of coffee and let's talk about what you've been working on. For the next 15 minutes, we talked about my latest project. It seemed that maybe he really did just want to discuss my work. I like what I'm seeing here. I see a lot of promise in you. You could have quite the future here, with the right support. Then my eyes began to droop. "What's the matter, Stephanie?" he asked with seeming concern. "Are you feeling okay?" "I don't know. I don't feel right." Then he put his hand on my leg. "Why don't you lay back until it passes?" "Mr. Henson, I think maybe there's been a misunderstanding. I think I'd like to leave." "I think you understand me perfectly. And I think you agree. Why else would you have come up here alone after work hours?" "But you invited me up here." "Really? Can anyone confirm that?" All anyone will see is a young, beautiful, ambitious employee who thought she could use her charms to get ahead. Especially after I tell them you came up here uninvited to proposition me and then threatened to make up lies if I didn't promote you. But, or you can just go along and things can go very well for you. With that, his hand slid farther up my leg and his lips moved toward my neck. His intentions were clear. I knew exactly where this was going. He smiled at me and moved his hands under my skirt. And then he stopped moving. A confused look crossed his face. "What's happening?" I stood up and looked at him. "What's the matter? Don't you feel well?" "I can't." "Oh, don't mind that. It's just the loss of your control of most of your voluntary muscles. Don't worry, you can still breathe and talk. For now." "What?" "Pretty ballsy, what you tried on me. But don't worry, I took something to counteract your coffee before I got here. I guess having all that power makes you arrogant. So arrogant that you think you can get away with anything. And this isn't the first time." I don't know what you're talk. Just stop. I've been tracking you for years. How many women have you abused? Tricked into being with you by plying them with drugs? Or by saying you had feelings, that it was real, that you take care of them? How many have you then fired and abandoned after ruining their reputations? 50, 100. Do you even keep count? You probably thought you were invulnerable, that no one would ever catch you, that you were too rich to be found out. Well, you were wrong. And now you're going to pay for what you've done. He looked at the door. Claire. At that, his assistant ran into the room. Mr. Henson. Get help, he whispered. Right away, sir. She ran back to leave the way she came. Stop right there or he'll be dead before you pick up the phone, I commanded. She froze. I turned to my victim. Do you want a chance to live? What would you do for it? He looked at me imploringly. Anything. Do you want money? I can give you cash. Do you think this was about money? You disgust me. I want you to admit what you did to all those women, in front of a witness while I record it. He looked at me. But that's what it will take to save your life. The recorder's going. Do you want to live? Start talking. And he did. He detailed his crimes and listed all the names he could remember, which was less than half of the total. That's it. All the decades you've been doing this, all the suffering you've caused, and those are the only names you can come up with? Pathetic. Were all the other women not even worth remembering? Please. I did what you asked. You have to help me. Fortunately for you, I'm not the monster you are. You won't have to spend decades living with the shame of what happened to you, knowing you can never confide in anyone because you'll be called a liar, or worse, blamed for it. Your suffering will be over soon. I turned as if to leave the room. Claire, please, get help. By the way, I said, all those women you abused. Would it surprise you to learn that I knew one of them? Quite well, in fact. She told me all about you. That's what spurred this plan to make you pay for your actions. And guess what else? Claire glanced toward me, then turned to him, her countenance changing from helpful to angry and vengeful as she spoke. I knew her, too. We looked at him and said, in perfect harmony, the last words he would ever hear. Goodbye, father. Questioning everything after leaving an emotionally abusive relationship, even after she hit me in my sleep. Throwaway. All names changed. This all starts with me not sounding like a good person. And that's fair. I did something wrong. I'm not asking for sympathy, but I need to make sense of what happened, and in doing so maybe I can help someone else. I'm giving such a full account in fairness to all parties involved, and to expose all my shame. Because, in a way, that's what this story is all about. Part 1. Married life. 2 years ago I, M40S, was living with my then wife, DI, 40s, and her son, Pau, 20s. DI and I had been together 13 years, married 7. I hadn't realized at the time, however, that I was no longer in love with her. I was selling a guitar on FB Marketplace, and started a conversation with a potential buyer, Zoe. We hit it off immediately, and amidst the jokes and memes, she bared her soul to me, telling me she lost a family member in an accident and that her previous partners were bad to her. We shared immense chemistry I hadn't felt in a long time, if ever. Over the next few months I tried to forget about Zoe, but I kept writing to her, at least once a week. I was addicted. I felt alive knowing she existed. Every waking moment I thought about her. Not sexually, just the idea of seeing or being close to her gave me joy. Any future plans with DI would make me anxious. I was in love with Zoe. The conversations with her weren't flirtatious. We chatted like friends, but I knew it was wrong because of my feelings. I tried to stop myself, but I would feel sick if I didn't hear from her. And sick when I did hear from her. I couldn't stand leaving her messages UN responded to. After becoming friends with Zoe on Facebook, I would flag events as interested, hoping she'd see them and maybe I'd run into her. And I did. Di and Zoe met at a gig, and I introduced them. Di already knew about my new friend Zoe, and vice versa. Zoe and Di got along well, and became Facebook friends. We hung out a few times as mates, the three of us. I met with Zoe one-on-one a few times too, usually before or after a gig. But at least once it was just her and I having a platonic lunch or dinner. My stomach would ache with guilt if I went to meet her, but I worried I couldn't break those plans without spilling all my feelings and losing her forever. Di had sensed something wrong. I went to a doctor for anxiety, something I'd never had before, and started medication for that. Unable to contain it any longer, I told Di what was happening. I had feelings for Zoe and I wasn't in love with her anymore, and we had to break up. She pleaded with me to try work us out. So we remained together as she patiently tried to understand this fixation I had with Zoe. She would ask if I'd spoken to her in the last week and I'd tell her honestly. I usually had. After Di and I did things together, she'd ask if I had thought about Zoe. I would say yes. It was too painful to lie about it. After a couple more months it became too much and Di told me to leave. We officially separated. I stayed at a friend's place, but within a week I met Zoe for dinner, got together and became instantly serious. I even admitted I had had feelings for her for a long time. She felt the same. Then things started to get weird. From that very first night together, Zoe started to reveal her true colors. But I was too in love with her to take them seriously. Part 2. Living with Zoe. In less than a month Zoe and I were living together. I explained to Di what had happened. I'd told Zoe I loved her and we had moved in together. She was devastated. Furious. She'd spent so long trusting me, being patient with me. Pao was civil, but I could tell he was depressed I had left and his mum was hurt. Moving my stuff out of Di's home and into Zoe's would become a complicated process because, naturally, Di was grieving and wanted to tell me how much I'd hurt her. How could I so easily abandon the life I'd made with her and Pao? She didn't know who I was anymore. I would argue with her over the details, e.g. I hadn't moved in with Zoe after 3 weeks, it was closer to 4 weeks, or how I hadn't left her solely to be with Zoe, and if I had I didn't intend to so quickly. It was awful. I was awful. Meanwhile, things were great with Zoe. Moving together quickly wasn't fast. It was fated for these two souls who had finally found each other. We fawned over each other 24/7. She'd introduced me to her parents in the first month, and she met my mum not long after. We admitted all the talking we did during the end of my relationship wasn't great and will need to make amends to the universe for our sins. She assured me what went on between us before we got together was not an affair. She said I'd done the best I could under the circumstances, by being honest with Di, and I shouldn't let Di make me feel bad. We drank a lot. More than I usually would. I put it down to the excitement of bonding in a new relationship. She was 2 years younger than me, and had whole lives to catch up on. I showed her photos and videos from my childhood, or the funny parts of my 1992 diary. We talked about getting married, having kids, careers. I had had some luck touring as a freelance musician, and I told her it was the best experience of my life and I wanted to get back there. She said she'd support me, even if it meant her being the main breadwinner. Zoe's stories from her childhood were bleak. She painted a life of her parents constantly overlooking her to praise her older brother who never did wrong and always demanded the center of attention. He won scholastic and athletic awards while Zoe was never invited to birthday parties and spent hours hiding in the mango tree from her mother's wooden spoon. Her father put her down constantly, comparing her to her brother. All three made her feel stupid. But to me she was the brightest, funniest and most talented person I'd ever met. And I couldn't believe she felt the same way about me. It was absolute bliss. Sort of. Back to the first night. I write my own music on the side. It is still my dream to live 100% off my originals. I might have missed the boat, but I don't care about anything else.